You're listening to the Flourish Mindset, where we talk to entrepreneurs and discover their successes, their failures, and their secrets to winning at business. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Flourish Mindset podcast. Today with me, I have Victoria Jocko. She is a life coach with The Connection Affection, and she's here today to kind of just share her journey and how she got into that. So welcome, Victoria.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, so I'm a life coach for women and LGBTQ folks. I help them feel good about themselves. That's like essentially what I do.
I love it. So how did you get into life coach?
Yeah, I struggled a lot as a teenager and into my early 20s, and I tried doing therapy, and it wasn't really working for me. I had done it for years, and I just wasn't seeing really anything, any progress for myself and my mental health. And so I started learning new skills. I read a lot of books about like how to shift your mindset and how to have like emotional intelligence. And I learned about inner child work and how to like reparent myself. And I realized like, oh, I can change the way I think about myself and about life. So maybe I can help other people do it too.
I absolutely love that.
Thanks.
So what was the journey? Like, what were the steps that you took to become a life coach? Did you go through training? Do you get certified? How do you go about doing that?
So you don't need to be certified. I have a certification. It's not from an accredited place. I did some like online thing when I first started out like 6 years ago.
Okay.
If I were to go back, I would probably go through like ICF training or like the life coach school. Those are some really good life coaching schools. So if you're interested, definitely check those out. But I don't really have any certifications outside of that. I do have an eating disorder recovery certification because I really wanted to focus on body image and help people learn how to eat intuitively and not like diet and be mean to themselves and their bodies,
right?
You know?
Women tend to do that so much. It's just this, it's part of that dysmorphia. I think you see your body in one way and you're just so unhappy all the time that you just abuse it a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So I do have that certification. But as far as life coaching goes, I'm self-taught. I've learned all these skills just through practice, through myself, like seeing what works for me. And then like when I first started coaching, I was just taking a bunch of free clients. I'm like, let's see what works with people. And so I learned that way.
Awesome. So how did you go about finding your clients, if you don't mind sharing your secret?
Yeah, for sure. I do in-person stuff, so I'll put on workshops. I've done that a few times in town here. I'm like fairly new to Fargo. But for the most part, I market online. So Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, those have been like the best ways for me to find clients, as well as honestly, I've had a lot of clients where like I've just met them out and we've chatted and like almost became friends, and they follow me and then they hire me that way, which is super great. I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in your sense, being a life coach is not just about being a life coach, but it is true entrepreneurship. You have to figure out how to do the marketing, how to do the networking and the accounting and all the other things. How did you kind of work your way through all of that? Or did you partner with people to get you through that parts of it? Or how did you go about kind of figuring it all out?
I think with life coaching, it is kind of special in that a lot of the ways that clients come to me is through my own self-expression. So marketing is a little bit on the easier side because I just get to share my thoughts and feelings with people and they relate to it and then they hire me. So I think with marketing, I did receive some help, I should say. I did some business coaching. I went into some groups and things like that. I followed Stacey Bayman. She's like this very well-known life coach, along with a few other people. But they're teaching you to just express yourself as well. Like their idea of sales is like share what's in your heart and people will come to you, and it is true. That's just how it works, which is beautiful for my line of business, but I think it's different for a lot of other entrepreneurs, you know?
Right.
Did that answer your question fully?
Yeah, with the marketing side. And I mean,
Yeah.
that's truly what you should be doing, I would say, because
Yeah.
people want someone who's authentic and who can understand and empathize with them. And so when you're just expressing your own inner thoughts and everything like that, they know that you're truly authentic in what you're doing and teaching them.
Yeah, 100%. Totally. As far as like the other business side of things, I have my own coach who he's an entrepreneur. So he's shared a lot of things with me. He's been kind of like a mentor in that way. So that's been nice.
I love that. I mean, I think people think that you only need a coach if you're struggling or like just at the beginning. But I mean, going back, if you're not growing, you're dying, which means that you should always be growing and developing. And a lot of times that's the most powerful way to do that is to learn from experts. And so having coaching throughout your life and every different aspect, maybe your coach changes as you change, but having those coaches is such an integral piece of like running business too.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I don't think you should hire a coach just when you're struggling. I hired my coach actually when I was struggling, but
but you kept him on.
100%, and I'm never letting him go. I've told him that. Like, we're going to be buried together.
Love it. Well, okay, so independent working, you know, you get to control your own schedule, control how you do your day. So what keeps you motivated? What keeps you going during maybe the slower times, or what keeps you keeps you getting up in the morning and following a schedule?
That's a good question. I am neurodivergent, so a schedule is
subjective.
Yeah. 100%.
Understand.
But this is just, it's a part of who I am. There isn't anything else I could see myself doing. So getting up and getting to meet with my clients, like it's my favorite part of my day. Mm-hmm. So I have a passion for it and a love for it. And it's difficult. Like I said, it's a part of me. You know, my business came about because I changed as a person. And so yes, it's a way that I make money, but it's also a part of like my identity in a way. Mm-hmm. These are skills that I practice for myself and that I created for myself that I get to teach other people. So there's nothing else that I could do.
I love it. I think when your business becomes your passion and your obsession, and it's so much more of like who you are as a person and not just what you want to do, it can become so much more powerful. So.
Yeah, it can also turn into an obsession and become kind of unhealthy though. And so like having boundaries for myself has been really important, where like I don't work past a certain period of time, or like I don't work past 8, which I could do because like my self-expression is my content. So like I could create stuff, but it becomes unhealthy and it becomes too much for me, you know? Like I've stopped reading self-help books because my whole life turned into self-help. So now I'm like, I need to not be a self-help person. Like, yes, it's a part of me. And also I need to be all these other things too,
right.
You know?
It's about finding balance, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you might be obsessed with one thing and you've kind of just let down other parts of your life, and other times you might let down that piece of it that you were obsessed with and, you know, take more self-care in other areas of your life. Yeah. Like for me, like I'll get obsessed with business books and self-help books and I'll focus on that for a little while, and then I'll get tired of that and then I go and read fiction for a little while, or nonfiction, or whatever it is, or maybe it's I just stop reading for like 2 months straight.
Yeah.
And it's just finding that it ends up balancing itself out, I think, a lot of times, but it's being aware of when those obsessions become too far and finding that balance.
Yeah, and I think, you know, a lot of my clients struggle with that, just like being able to let go of the things that they think they're supposed to be focusing on. Like if you're in a business, you might think that like you have to focus on this all the time. Like this has to be your life, but that's not true. And like being able to allow yourself to read fiction or do whatever, just like be a person, you know, that's so important.
Right. Well, and I think a lot of times that, you know, what you just said, you have to read this specific type of book or whatever it is, you pigeonhole yourself.
Yeah.
And there are so many other ways of expression, and when you allow yourself to have those different spots, all of a sudden your visions can change, your perception of the world can change, and you can grow as more of a whole rounded person as opposed to only growing in one aspect of your life. Totally. And I find that like personally, when I'm only focusing on one aspect of my life, sometimes I'll hit like roadblocks, but as soon as I open in a different aspect, all of a sudden it will help me overcome the roadblock in the one specific section because I'm now opening my eyes to like a broader spectrum of opportunities.
Yep. I actually did that when it came to bringing in money, because I was so focused on my business. And there are like periods where I'm not making money, you know, like that's just part of being an entrepreneur, where you're not signing clients or whatever the case, right?
Struggles. Yep.
Yep. And so I found that when I started trying to bring clients in, like really just becoming obsessive and becoming like fixated on this thing, I was feeling frustrated. I resented my business. I didn't want to show up, and I wasn't making money. And so I started just focusing on other ways that I could make money, like whether it's having a side job or like door dashing or something, just so I can feel secure financially, but also like bring that joy back to my business. And every single time that happened, I would sign a client. It was really funny that way, because I was allowing myself to bring joy back to my business.
Oh, I think that's something that we don't talk enough about in my podcast so far is it's not always going to be easy, and there might be times that you need to take a side job.
Yeah.
How do you determine when it's time to maybe take that step back and take those side pieces, or when you need to push harder on what you're focusing on?
That's a good question. I don't know if there's a right answer for everybody. Personally, for me, I don't want to force things in my business. Like, that's a value for me, that I want this to be not necessarily easy, because it's not, but I want it to be light and joyful in a way and exciting. And if it's not, like, yes, I can get business coaching, which I have. I've done that. So if you haven't invested in yourself, do that.
Yep.
But if you are investing in yourself and things just aren't working right now, maybe it's time to focus on something else so that you can feel financially secure and supported.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about some people who've inspired you to do this, other than yourself. Who are some people who've really had a big impact in what you're doing now?
Yeah. I have a few people in mind. So Stacey Bayman for sure was one of my first influences to getting more serious about being a life coach. Before, it was kind of like, yeah, I'm kind of a life coach. You know, it's like a hobby, whatever. I was like shy.
Sure.
But when I joined her program, I really developed like this confidence of like, no, this is what I do. This is a necessary thing for people, and I'm helping people change their lives. So she was definitely a big influence for me. My own coach, Coach Alex Ray, he is phenomenal. Phenomenal. I love him. He is just such a fantastic person. He's a queer confidence coach, and he has just taught me so much about like, I mean, obviously myself, but how to be a good coach, like how to be a caring coach and a compassionate coach, and someone, because a lot of, I have seen like there are people big in our industry who I think that they do care. I think their hearts are in it. And also I think that they have let maybe money just get the better of them. And Alex is just, he's very successful, but he doesn't let that like get to his head, which I just absolutely love. And then there are some other people, I don't know what her actual name is, but she is the Sabotage Queen on Instagram, and she's just wonderful. She is all about entrepreneurship being like self-expression, and it's just so much fun.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah.
Perfect. What are you listening to or reading right now?
I strictly read fiction now. I spent like years reading self-help books, and I burned myself out. So I'm reading A Court of Thorns and Roses. It's a very good book. But as far as like podcasts go, I still do listen to personal development stuff there. I listen to Simone Soul. She's a wonderful entrepreneur, life coach, business marketing person. And then I listen to my coach's podcast. And honestly, I listen to a lot of true crime.
True crime. It's the phase right now, right? Everyone's listening to at least a little bit of it.
Yep.
Okay, awesome. Well, I mean, if someone's kind of getting started in this world, whether it's just a brand new entrepreneur or somebody who is maybe looking at becoming a coach, what are some of the first pieces that you would encourage them? Maybe let's actually separate those out. If someone's looking at becoming a coach, whether it's a life coach, a business coach, wherever it is, what are some of the steps that they first should take before they jump into this world?
I think, honestly, I would say just start. like just start doing it. Find some people that you can, if you want to do it, I think the best way to become a coach is to have experience. So find some people that want to work with you and do it for cheap, do it for free, whatever. I did it for free for a while. And just like get that practice, and also find a mentor or a coach yourself. Find someone to help support you, because it is really difficult. Coaching, entrepreneurship, either way, like it's hard, and you deserve someone to be there to support you and guide you through it too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I almost worry as somebody who's maybe not been through some kind of coaching before, diving into it and maybe not knowing what to do or what to say, or maybe their mindset's not in the right spot. So you would suggest like getting a coach themselves, or getting somebody?
Would, for sure. I mean, if you're wanting to become a coach, but you're not, like, all the coaches that I know don't just jump into coaching. They're not just waking up one day and thinking like, oh, my life is kind of in shambles, but I'm going to become a life coach, you know? So I think like doing the work yourself is going to be the first step for sure. So yeah, don't just like jump into it if you haven't had that personal experience and that personal growth. And if like you are there, go get a certification. Go to ICF. I don't know what that stands for, but ICF, if you Google it, it'll come up for coaching certifications. They're a very good coaching school. And then the Life Coach School is also really well known and really reputable. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Someone just wants to get into business in general. What is like one thing that they should really analyze before they get into business in general?
So I heard the woman who owns and runs the Life Coaching School, Brooke Castillo, I remember her saying that the reason she's so successful is because she is willing to feel anything. And that stuck with me. And that, I think, is the truth of entrepreneurship. If you're not willing to feel disappointed, embarrassed, sad, angry, frustrated, resentful, and all the positive things like excited and joyful and, you know, whatever. Like we all want to feel that. But if you're not willing to feel the negative, you probably should not become an entrepreneur, because it can be hard. It can be rough.
There's definitely a spectrum. I mean, you get to celebrate in the good times and hurt in the hard times and everything in between.
So being willing to feel everything.
I love it. Okay. So I think a lot of people learn from mistakes, right? That's part of it. Is growth and failure, growth and mistakes. I don't like saying failure, but it is failure. Yeah. But it is a growth opportunity too. So I also like to bring in some opportunities for other people to learn from other people's mistakes or other people's redirections. Can you maybe share like one or two times in your career that you've maybe not failed or made a mistake, but you've had to pivot, or maybe it is a mistake that you've made that, you know, if you can prevent someone else from doing it and learning from you, you would want to do that?
Yeah, I think the biggest one for me is what I mentioned earlier, that like putting too much stress on your business and on yourself, I think can be detrimental to it. Like you said, there's a point where you can push yourself and grow. And then I think there's also a point where you need to pull back and reevaluate like what it is that you're doing and what your like mental health is in that point, you know, because like I said, entrepreneurship is difficult. It can be hard. And when you want so badly for something to work and you just keep trying and trying and trying, and you're just kind of like feeling like crap, maybe it's time to find another outlet for what it is that you're trying to do, whether it's to make money or like whatever. Obviously it's to make money. That's what we're doing. Right. We have a business. But yeah, I think just putting too much stress and too much pressure on myself and my business to perform a certain way when it wasn't, and redirecting my attention.
I love that. Yeah. They talk about that a lot in Built to Last, actually. Knowing your vision and your mission and knowing why you're doing what you're doing and where you want to go. And once you know those two things, everything else can fall into place. So, you know, if you know what you're trying to achieve in your business and you know the reason behind it, then maybe sometimes it's by, you know, networking with specific people to get this specific genre or niche of people under you, or, you know, coaching them. And maybe it's shifting and pivoting and completely facilitating these these retreats and meditation sessions or whatever you want to do. It's being able to pivot within that, and you don't need to be stuck in one direction. But as long as whatever you choose to do and you're capable of pivoting and all of the things that you choose to do fit within your mission and your vision, and you're still headed in that same direction, then that's where you get to build that success. And you can create big visions, but you need to be able to pivot within that. So if one direction isn't working, it's okay. It's not failure. It's just, this isn't working right now. Let's pivot within this, but still head in that same direction.
Yep, totally. I've done, workshops or group coaching or like just different things that are within my business when I'm not signing one-on-one clients. And I love working one-on-one. That is my absolute favorite thing to do. But workshops are super fun. Group coaching is super fun. So yeah, you don't have to completely pivot out of what you're doing, right? Just like find another way to do the thing that you're doing.
Right.
And make it fun.
Love it. Any other things that maybe you've learned in your time in coaching?
There are so many. I guess just not giving up and realizing that your mindset can change. It was something that I didn't know until I got into coaching, that you can change your mindset, you can change those thoughts. And so if you're struggling really hard in your business right now, getting coaching or finding a mentor, just somebody to help you redirect your thoughts is the most valuable thing that you can do for yourself and your business.
Absolutely. I find that people who are in entrepreneurship by themselves, maybe they don't have a partner in the business that they started. And then people who are maybe in leadership positions towards the top, it's so lonely sometimes, and you don't have that person to bounce ideas off of. Yeah. So having the mentor, having a coach, or even surrounding yourself with people who are maybe in similar situations, even if they're not all coaches, but they're all entrepreneurs or they're all independent workers, being able to surround yourself to bounce those ideas and support yourself is such a big piece of that too.
Yeah, totally. I think community is so important. Regardless, but especially if you are a business owner, an entrepreneur, it is lonely. It can be anyway. So even just filling your social media feed with marketing mentors, business coaches, people like that, people that you can relate to, can make the world of a difference if you're not ready or you haven't found the person that you want to work with one-on-one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So would you find yourself as an extrovert or an introvert? Or consider yourself, I guess?
It depends, I guess. I've definitely switched over the years. I think right now I'm in more of an introvert kind of phase. Yeah.
Okay, and just kind of analyzing everything, thinking it through.
Yeah. I've really been valuing my alone time. And yeah, self-care has been a huge priority for me. Over the last few years, but really in the last 6 months, I'm what does self-care really mean to me? So I've been taking a lot of time for myself to do whatever I want, go to the gym, cook myself really good food, clean my house, just things that keep me feeling good. They honestly take a lot of time and energy, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. Right. At least I didn't. I just kept going and going and going until I burnt myself out. And now I'm okay, we're going to slow down.
Right. And that goes back to finding balance, right?
Yeah.
You're going to go, but then you burn out, and it takes way longer than anyone anticipates to recover from burnout, and years even. And so being able to identify when you're getting there, even before, if you can prevent it from happening, but even if you do get there, taking that time. And self-care is kind of this word of a generation hates it, but it's more than just selfishness. It's just knowing how to handle your mind and how to handle your body, and taking the time to respect it like you respect everyone else. And if you can't respect your own body, how are you respecting everybody else? Exactly.
Yeah. No, and I definitely view self-care as, I don't think it's selfish at all. And also, if it is selfish, maybe it's a good thing.
Right.
Maybe selfishness isn't so bad.
We don't all need to die at 75 years old.
Yeah. Right. No, but I view self-care as a much bigger thing than what I think a lot of people view it as, face masks and spa days and whatever. That's part of it, I get my nails done. That's a part of self-care. But also getting adequate sleep, making sure I'm drinking enough water, feeding myself food that feels good for me, that tastes good to me, that, taking care of my body and my mind, right? Like it's a big umbrella.
Right. Love it. So we're actually already almost running out of time.
Okay.
It goes so fast. We got a little bit more time here, but is there anything that you want to make sure that the listeners hear about what you do, or kind of diving into the journey of entrepreneurship, or maybe even if they're starting out as a leader and they're starting to meet with people for the first time?
Yeah. I like that last one, like meeting people for the first time. That can be really scary and really challenging. And I think I'm in a group, and we were talking about this recently. And one of my friends on there, he was saying how like his goal is to do something really scary and then retreat and like take care of himself and give himself like the comfort and compassion that he needs. And so I think that can be almost like a fun game, maybe not fun, but like a game where like challenge yourself to go out and meet people and talk to them about your business and do the networking. And then what would feel good for you to, like, what would it look like to do self-care after, to really acknowledge that that was a scary thing for you and to like nurture that feeling. I think that could be cool.
I like that a lot. I mean, that's where you go, right? Outside your comfort zone is where you grow. But if you're constantly outside your comfort zone, you end up in this fight or flight mode all the time, and it's so draining, and that's where you get that burnout a lot.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah, I think we don't really acknowledge that, like, this thing is really intense. Like, it gives us a lot of uncomfortable feelings, Like, we can say that it's uncomfortable, but I think that we can honor our humanness a little bit more when we recognize, like, no, that shit was scary. Can I swear here?
That's good. You're good.
I'm sorry.
You're good.
That was scary, and like kind of, I mentioned inner child work earlier. I'm really passionate about like viewing a part of ourselves. Like there's this little person inside of us, this little kid who needs to be cared for.
Yeah.
And so like maybe how could you care for them after? They just did this big scary thing. If you viewed yourself like that, like you're just this little kid going out into the world and you just did something super scary and it was really uncomfortable and you're so anxious and uncomfortable. How would you care for them afterwards? Would you like go out and get them ice cream or, watch a favorite show and get cozy? Something like that I think could be really useful for an entrepreneur.
I love that too, because it's your inner child, but like, let's say anyone else in your world, you would celebrate them for doing something like that. And you would cheer them on and you would give them something special, like you said, like that treat, or maybe it's bringing them a gift basket, or even it's just calling them and praising them for that. And you have to do that for yourself too. You have to praise yourself for stepping outside the comfort zone or doing something hard and scary.
Yeah. So, you can even make an agreement with a friend too, to like celebrate you with them. My friend and I, she's my best friend. She's also an entrepreneur. And so we had an agreement where like when we make a big business move, we like go out and do something fun,
I love that.
Yeah.
Accountability, but in the good way.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. All right. So I actually want to circle back right to the beginning. You said you haven't been in the Fargo-Moorhead area for too long. And luckily with like life coaching and things, you can do that from anywhere, right? Yep. You can talk to people on the phone, you can do Zoom or whatever it is. But I'm sure with the move, it was time to maybe bring on new clients. So how did you go about, or let's say somebody is new to the area, are there some key places that someone should look at wherever they are in the world, in their communities, to start networking?
I would think about where you frequent, like where you like to go, and then go there and put up flyers, talk to people, business cards, like whatever it is. I think that like is going to attract like, so you should go where you like to go.
Awesome. So do you find yourself wanting to attract people who are similar to you, or do you see that you work with someone who's a little bit different than you, or do you have a niche, or is it kind of more of a broader spectrum for you?
I focus on working with women and LGBTQ members. So it's broad and also not,
Right.
But I'm not like opposed to working with people outside of those
Sure.
two categories. It's just, it ends up being who comes to me, you
Sure.
know?
Do you find people who are more similar to you respect you or your voice a little bit more than people who are maybe very different?
For sure. Yeah. I guess like I don't really have, I mean, my clients are all unique individuals, so we're not going to agree on every single thing. Like they're still different, but at the same time, like we do share a lot of values and like beliefs about the world and stuff like that. So
Love it.
yeah.
Okay, so you told me before we got on here that you have your own podcast. Can
I
you
do.
tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah. So it's called Encountering Empowerment. And I just talk about whatever is going on with me that week. I share a lot of stories about my life. I share, obviously, like the life coaching things, like how to accept yourself more. I talk about actually, which this is funny. A lot of people know me as having a body positive account. That's like how I'm known for, I guess. But it was only, I've had this podcast for a year and only recently did I actually talk about anything regarding body image. But I have talked about it, and I've talked about intuitive eating, and I've been focusing a lot on relationships. That has been a big topic for me and my clients. So I tend to do a lot of relationship coaching, boundaries work, codependency, anxious attachment, that kind of thing, and like how to, navigate all of that. So, yeah, my podcast isn't for a specific thing, just like I'm not. I encompass a lot of topics on there.
Right. And I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So if anyone wanted to maybe listen to your podcast, where would they be able to find it?
Apple and Spotify and Anchor, but I don't think anyone uses Anchor.
Well, I think Anchor puts it on to Spotify.
Yeah,
and
but
it
you
can
can
connect a
list
lot
it
of
on
stuff.
there,
I know,
but-
right? I have it
Yeah.
on there too, and I'm like, I don't get any listens here. Okay, awesome. And if anyone would maybe contact you and see if you're maybe the right fit for them for coaching, how can they do that?
Through Facebook or Instagram. You could even put my email in the show notes or something if you want, but it's Connection Affection on Instagram and TikTok. And then I have a Facebook group called Beyond the Beauty Standard where I focus more on body image and the intuitive eating stuff. So you can find me there too.
I absolutely love that. I think that's something that everyone in our society can utilize.
That's for sure.
So that is definitely not a niche right there, but that's good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast with me today.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it, and I love the insight that you were able to give us.
Yes, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here.
You've been listening to the Flourish Mindset. Don't forget to subscribe and follow so you don't miss a single episode.